So let's go back to our presentation and finish up real quickly with how we help with recruiting and also player empowerment. So what we have here is, let me get back to my slideshow, is our individual tackle assessment, Coach.
Yep.
Now, Coach Bakken, real quickly before I dive too much into this, talk real quickly about how you guys utilize these individual tackle assessments from a recruiting standpoint.
Yep. So yeah, kind of two things. Number one, and before recruiting, like our guys, everybody's visual. If we're talking film on huddle or we're doing different, guys like to see things. It's hard to walk through it. So they get a report card. But what I do, or we do here, is we'll take these, and when we have our visits and our parent, and part of it is the player and the parents, and we'll walk through, and obviously we go through like the example we gave earlier of a tackle versus effectiveness. But we break down, and I think in the end, summing it up is, we'll talk about how we build our tackle plans with your help of doing that, so that we are working on things that guys individually need to improve on, so their deficiencies, not just running drills to run drills. So we tell guys, a lot of people don't break down a tackle and know all these different techniques and analytical points. And I tell our guys, they don't either, but they know when we roll out and do a drill and we hit focal points or coaching points, whether it's the near hip, shoulder strike, the gather, the punch, they know that these are all things that they're getting that tackle broken down and being analyzed. So for us as a recruit, we like to use it to say what separates us, what makes us different. We all tackle, we all want to be dominant in different ways, but we pull into how analytics builds into our weekly tackle plan, our spring and our fall tackle plan, all the way down to the individual. In the end, what we're trying to tell the guys is, we all talk about developing athletes. Well, one of the things in developing them is, as a defensive guy, is developing their tackling skill. We work weight room, nutrition, speed, all those things, but can we focus on the tackle and help them be better tacklers and dominant tacklers? So we show this, and then the parents, it's good for them, not only from what they're seeing that a coaching staff is working to develop their son, but also then we can tie in the safety piece of how we focus the shoulder and trying to keep the head limited out of there, because we got to have them on the field. They don't do us any good on the sideline, with injuries. So
yeah, you right there, right? Your biggest your availability is your best ability. Excuse me.
Yep. Can't make the bus from the tub. You've heard that numerous times, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think that's exactly that point, Coach. I mean, when it comes to being able to take like a proactive approach to tracking not only head contact but performance. So all those have different ways to it. For you, like you mentioned, if I'm talking to a parent, mom and a dad, or some parents in a recruiting pitch, and I'm able to show them, hey, tackling is going to be in terms of a defensive player, but also even offensive players now with the hip drop and everything, they're invested too. Yeah. But being able to show parents that, hey, when we say we're going to develop them, we take that seriously. Here's some actual tangible, like here's some real data, but also like some resources that your players can have. And I honestly wish that we had this when I was playing at UW, because again, this will tell the full picture, because we go in, like I mentioned before, we get the grade out sheets and, hey, Scott, you missed, 3 tackles, you had 6 made tackles, whatever it may be. That's just part of the story. So again, on the sideline, especially if I come off the sideline, I missed the tackle, in my head during the game, I'm not really thinking about what I did wrong necessarily. Sometimes I might know, but it's hard to think about that in the thick of the game. So after being able to show our clients this, and a player, more importantly, we really truly feel like we empower them. You show Bobby Wagner this, Earl Thomas, the guys, when we first started developing this, they wanted to know, if they were a great to elite, how do I get to this even further than that? Bobby Wagner, for example, he said he's giving up like 0.5 yards after contact on average during their big run. And he's like, how do we get that to 0? He wanted to know, how can I be the best of the best, right? Earl Thomas was the same way when we met with them to help develop these ITAs out. But every level has a different purpose. I think at the college level, it's about how do we continue to develop player personnel and just track that, right, Coach? Yep. But also, like you guys are using it over in Concordia, you're using it for the lower level beneath that, where how do we get the best athletes to not only come here but also maximize their playing time. So
And
let's get
we
into
real quick, we tie in there of just real quick on that is
yes, coach.
we tell them, you go to college, we're going to treat you like a pro. This is your skill set. This is your job. You're a student athlete, but how do you become that best football player? And they need the tools. So everything from this report card ties directly into those drills. So what's unique that I think I saw is our guys that really were into this dove in, and it like this with Ty. If it was a near hip, if we were working drills that the focal point was tracking the near hip and doing that, he was astute to that, knew I need to work on this. So he knew to break down and how he needed to get better on that piece of the big picture. And so it empowered those guys to work on their trade.
Perfect. Exactly. So let's real quickly, you guys can all see this. The numbers are there and it's powerful. We also track, the types of contact the athlete is making. We always kind of again paint that picture because we're tracking these data points, almost 88 different data points per tackle that we track. So over the course of a game or even 3 games, a whole season like this, the data is super powerful. And for Ty, for example, you can see that whenever he's making non-body, so arm tackles for our audience, that's about almost 40% of his overall tackles. So it's a big chunk of it. And he's giving up 1.8, almost 2 yards whenever he makes non-body versus whenever he's making shoulder contact or even chest or body, he's cutting that in half. And sometimes there's going to be a very small margin, right, Coach? When you're talking about good to great and all that. But I think for him, just being able to point out that little snippet of data, like, hey, man, if you get your shoulder on him, you're that much better, right? I think Ty, he did that. He started to focus on that a little bit more, and he was able to elevate his playing, right, over the years. So that was big.